Ireland is known for its pubs, places full of laughter, stories, and the sound of clinking glasses. But behind the warm glow and welcome lies a darker truth. Some of these pubs hold on to more than just tradition. They hold on to spirits that never left. In this third instalment of our Haunted Pub series, we travel across Ireland to uncover 5 more chilling tales. From eerie cellars to ghostly barmaids and shadowy figures that only appear after closing time. These stories aren't just local legends. They're whispered warnings passed from landlord to landlord, generation to generation. So settle in, but don't get too comfortable. Because in these pubs, the spirits behind the bar might be watching you. The White Hart, Kells, County Meath. The White Hart in Kells is one of those pubs that feels like it's been there forever. With its low wooden beams, fire-warmed corners, and quiet hum of conversation, it's the kind of place where people come to feel safe. But after the last drink is poured and the doors are locked for the night, the atmosphere changes. Patrick inherited the pub from his uncle in the late 1990s. At first, he loved the charm of the place, the faded wallpaper, the smell of old oak, and the stories locals would tell at the bar. But it didn't take long before Patrick realised something was very wrong. One night in December, while locking up after hours, he heard the sound of glass shattering behind the bar. He turned around. Nothing. Not a single glass out of place. He even checked the CCTV footage, but the sound didn't show up. Just silence. He put it down to stress, or maybe a trick of the acoustics. But it kept happening. Every few nights, that same loud crash of glass. Always in the same spot. Never any sign of a mess. No witnesses. Just the sound and the feeling that someone, or something, was watching him. Then came the incident in the cellar. Patrick sent a young barman named Liam down to change a keg one Friday evening. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Patrick eventually went down himself, only to find Liam sitting on the stone steps, pale and frozen, staring into the corner of the cellar. He said he'd seen an old man standing there, silent, unmoving, before vanishing into thin air. He refused to ever go back down again. Patrick wasn't convinced. Not at first, but 2 nights later, he saw it too. A man wearing a long coat, flat cap and heavy boots, standing in the darkness of the cellar. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. And then, like smoke, he was gone. Locals believe the pub is haunted by Frank Doyle, a landlord who ran the White Hart in the 1940s. Frank was a hard man, quick to anger, slow to kindness. Rumour has it he once locked a young worker in the cellar overnight for stealing tips. The boy was found shivering and traumatised the next morning. Frank, however, showed no regret. He died suddenly of a heart attack in the pub in 1952. Some say it was the drink, others say the building had finally had enough of him. Since then, strange things have continued. Lights turn on and off by themselves, footsteps echo upstairs when no one's there, glasses fall without warning. More than one staff member has handed in their notice after being left alone at closing time. The pub's dog, Max, refuses to go near the cellar door. He growls at it, even when it's closed. Some locals still drink at the White Hart, but they don't linger. And no one sits at the back booth near the old fireplace, the one Frank used to claim as his own. In Kells, everyone knows the truth. At the White Hart, the spirits don't just come in bottles. The Dirty Duck, Holywood, County Down. Tucked beside the train tracks in Holywood, the Dirty Duck Alehouse is a well-loved pub with great food, live music, and a friendly buzz most nights of the week. But when the crowd leaves and the doors are locked, the atmosphere shifts. The pub grows strangely quiet, and that's when the stories begin. The building dates back to the 1800s and has gone through several names, including the Bay Tree. Its walls have seen decades of change, but some believe a former presence never moved on. Staff and locals whisper about unexplained sounds, shadows in the upper rooms, and icy cold spots that seem to move through the building like a breeze from nowhere. Most of the activity centres around the top floor. It's used for private functions now, but in the past it served as accommodation for overnight guests. Ellie, a long-time member of staff, remembers staying late one winter night after a birthday party. She was clearing glasses from the upstairs tables when she heard slow, deliberate footsteps above her. The strange thing was, there is no floor above that room. Then came the sound of a chair being dragged, slow, scraping, as though someone were pulling it out to sit down. She called out, thinking maybe a guest had been left behind, but there was no response. As she stepped into the hallway, she felt the temperature plummet. Her breath turned white in the air. That's when she saw him. A tall figure standing at the far end of the corridor, still as stone, with what looked like a coat draped over his shoulders. She blinked, and he vanished. She wasn't the only one. Another bartender heard whispering coming from the stairwell one night, soft and close, like someone speaking just beside her ear. But the bar was closed, and she was completely alone. Glasses have been found smashed in locked rooms, lights switch on in empty toilets, and more than one staff member has reported a strong scent of smoke drifting through the air, even though no one's been smoking. Locals believe the ghost might be tied to the building's old history as a stopover for railway workers. Back in the early 1900s, it was said to be a lodging house, and one guest in particular, a quiet older man named Harris, checked in on a rainy night and was never seen leaving. Some think he died upstairs in his sleep. Others say he walked out the back and straight onto the tracks. Now, on quiet nights, with the hum of the last train fading into the distance, the same story repeats itself. 3 knocks on the inside wall. No one there. The dirty duck is full of life during the day. But when the last drink is poured and the shutters close, something older stirs upstairs. A man who checked in long ago and never found his way out. McCarthys Pub, Fethard, County Tipperary. In the quiet town of Fethard sits McCarthy's, a pub unlike any other in Ireland, not just because it serves pints, but because it also serves as an undertaker. Yes, a place where you can order a Guinness at the bar, while caskets are stacked in the next room. It's been that way for over 150 years. The McCarthy family have run both the pub and the funeral business since the 1800s, and the dual purpose gives the building a strange, still energy. And with that come the stories. The most commonly reported phenomenon is the sound of knocking. 3 sharp knocks, heard on the inside walls of the bar or coming from the hallway behind the function room. Staff say it happens most often just after last orders, and always when the room is otherwise silent. One night, the current owner was closing up alone when he heard the 3 knocks, followed by the distant sound of glass shattering. He turned back into the bar, expecting to find a broken pint glass or bottle. But nothing was out of place. Every glass was still on its shelf. The bar was silent. Then he noticed something worse. The smell of lilies, thick and sweet, filling the air, though there were no flowers in the room. That wasn't the only strange encounter. A visiting band once stayed in the rooms above the bar. After their gig, one of them came downstairs, pale and shaking. He claimed to have seen an old man in a dark suit standing at the end of the hallway, just staring at him. When he turned on the light, the man was gone, but the mirror on the landing was fogged up, as though someone had just breathed on it. Locals believe the ghost may belong to a McCarthy ancestor who died suddenly in the building, or perhaps to one of the many departed who were once laid out in the same space now used for dining. Some even claim the pub is visited by a family banshee, heard wailing in the side alley on rare stormy nights. The most chilling part? The cold room where coffins are stored sits directly beneath the bar. Staff report sudden cold spots, especially near the floor, and some have claimed to hear soft murmuring rising through the boards, like a voice trying to speak from beneath. Most people come to McCarthy's for the history, some for the novelty, but the locals? They drink their pint, nod to the empty booth in the corner, and never stay too late. Because in McCarthy's, life and death go hand in hand, and if you hear knocking after dark, it might not be the front door. House of McDonnell, Ballycastle, County Antrim. Step inside the house of McDonnell in Ballycastle and you're stepping into history. This pub has been in continuous operation since 1744, run by the same family for generations. It's famous for its perfectly preserved interior, timber ceilings, stone floors, and shelves lined with clay pipes and old whiskey bottles. But alongside its charm, there's something else. A quiet unease that creeps in after hours. Staff at the House of McDonnell have long spoken of odd occurrences. Whispered voices heard near the old fireplace. Doors that open on their own. Cold spots in the snug that never go away, no matter how high the fire burns. And the upstairs rooms? Many refuse to go up there alone. The current landlord, Brian, tells the story of a night he stayed late to finish paperwork. Around midnight, he heard footsteps pacing the upstairs hall. Thinking someone had broken in, he grabbed a torch and went to check, but found no one. As he turned to go back downstairs, the light flickered. Then he heard something even stranger. A voice humming a slow tune, almost like a lullaby. The voice stopped as suddenly as it began. Later that week, a tourist staying nearby claimed they saw a man in old-fashioned clothes standing by the pub door before vanishing into the dark. They described him in detail: tall, pale, with a long brown coat and flat cap. Exactly how a former landlord named Thomas McDonnell was described in family records from the late 1800s. Locals say Thomas died suddenly in the pub after suffering a heart attack in the snug, in the exact same seat where strange cold patches are now felt. Ever since, that corner of the room has carried a heaviness no amount of warmth seems to lift. Even more eerie are the sounds that come from the old stable behind the pub. Now used for storage, it was once part of the pub's coaching-in operations. More than one staff member has reported the sound of hooves and snorting horses, even though the stables have been empty for decades. One barman recalls locking up and hearing someone whisper his name. When he turned, no one was there, but the old wooden bar stool behind him had moved 2 inches away from the counter. The House of McDonnell is still beloved for its music sessions and friendly welcome, but when the tunes fade and the fire dies low, the old building remembers. And if you sit in the wrong seat, you may find you're not alone, because some spirits here prefer to stay seated. The Rabbit Rooms, Bangor, County Down. Overlooking the marina in Bangor sits the Rabbit Rooms, a stylish sea-facing bar known for music, good food, and a long view across Belfast Lough. But locals still remember its former names. Back in the 1990s, it was called the Steamer, and in the 2000s, it became the Black Boat. Through every change, one thing has remained the same. The building is haunted, and not just by history. Long before it was refurbished into the modern venue it is today, the pub had a rough, nautical charm. Sailors drank there, fishermen passed the time there. And it's said that one man, a regular known only as the Captain, never really left. Current staff began to notice strange things late at night. Glasses moving on their own, the sound of boots pacing slowly across the upstairs floor when no one was there, lights flickering just before closing time. One night, a barback named Josh heard the unmistakable sound of someone whistling an old sea shanty near the rear staircase, except the bar had been empty for over an hour. But the real chills came with the knocks. Every Thursday, just before midnight, 3 solid knocks echo from the old storeroom wall, a spot that used to lead to the former cold room back in the steamer days. No one uses it now, but the sound hasn't stopped. Even customers have heard it. Loud, deliberate, like someone on the other side trying to come through. Back in the 1940s, the building was a haunt for Navy men stationed in Belfast. One in particular, an older sailor known locally as the Captain, used to sit in the corner booth, nursing a whiskey and staring out at the boats. They say he was waiting for a message that never came. One stormy night, he left through the back door and vanished. No body was found. Just his hat, discovered on the shoreline the next morning. Since then, the sightings have continued. A man in a naval coat has been seen walking through the bar after closing. Staff have returned from the toilets to find chairs moved or lights turned on. One former waitress quit after hearing a voice whisper her name directly into her ear, only to turn around and find the bar completely empty. Now, people speak of the Captain in hushed tones, a silent watcher, a permanent resident. The Rabbit Rooms may have changed its name, its menu, and its music, but some guests never care for the renovations. And if you're near the marina late one Thursday night, listen closely. You just might hear those 3 knocks. Ireland's pubs are full of laughter, music, and stories, but some of those stories are darker than they first seem. Behind the charm and the cheer, there are echoes of the past that refuse to be silenced, spirits that linger, shadows that move when no one's looking. From crying women in quiet corners to ghostly sailors who never made it home, these pubs remind us of one thing: not every customer leaves when the lights go out. If you've ever had a strange experience in an Irish pub, something you couldn't explain, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your story. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time. For more haunted places, cursed legends, and ghost stories from across Ireland. Until then, slante. And don't stay too long after last call.